is Saturday the 23rd, I believe, 24th. And we are back in a location here that we haven't been in about a week. And right pretty much in the middle of Michigan's rifle season. And we have left this kind of sit until now. Waited for some of that first week pressure to get over, and then came back in here this weekend here and trying to get the deal done. A couple really good bucks in the area that we've been seeing. Haven't seen them in about 3 weeks, but that is all due to the pressure from the gun season. So today I wanted to chat with everybody about hopefully everybody is taking advantage of the good weather here and picking and choosing those high percentage sits like we always talk of. Sadly, this week in our area is not favorable for us. This had to come in and replace a couple of trail cameras and move a couple trail camera locations as well. So it's a good evening to maybe get ready for a sit tomorrow. What we're doing this time of the year in this post-rut is I'm a firm believer in, there's an age-old theory that I think a lot of people either don't know about or overlook, just because everybody wants to be in their rifle blind in that enjoyable time of the year, especially when the weather's like this, you don't freeze. But one thing to keep in mind is, especially here, any gun season that this permits to across the country, but mainly here in Michigan because of the high rifle hunters that we have out in the woods, is always keep in mind that believe it or not, this time of the year, the bucks are out of that lockdown stage. What I find most of now, you will find the occasional, especially around feed, you'll find the occasional bedding area close to licking branches, stuff like that. But 28 days from the 12th of November here in mid-Michigan is when that second rut will happen. So in the meantime, these bucks go back on to me, they go back into a kind of an early season pattern, if you will, not with greens, but to a browse. And what I've always found, guiding and also hunting here, born and raised here in Michigan, was this time of the year, the folks that have the browse and cover feed internal of their bedding areas are the winners. Now, what I find is a lot of people sometimes don't take advantage of that, or don't know that they have the opportunity to take advantage of that, because in a rifle situation, most people sit in one spot and one spot only, and they don't move to transition into that take advantage of that movement, such as you would from early season into the pre-rut movement. And I think once you hear that, I know I've been guilty of it in the past, but over the last 10 years I've really tried to hone in on that, and sightings and everything has definitely, our harvest rates and everything have went way up because of that. And it's just another step of the movement, but it's a step that I feel and I see a lot is folks just don't take advantage of, because it's they've already moved a couple times during the bow season, and we all get sluggish and we feel that, hey, I've got this rifle in my hands, I can conquer the world. And there's some truth to that, reaching out and touching things, but if you're not in an area where you can physically see, visually, lay eyes on something, you could have the best rifle in the world. It's not going to do any good. So this area, what we've got right here, is this is what I call my hex area, and I've got two locations here. I've actually got two bow stands, and we've got two pop-ups here, like the one I'm sitting in here. This is actually Size Ameristep, and he's missing out tonight. So he's got some other things going on tonight with his mother, and he's not unable to hunt tonight. So a good dad that I am, I mean, I've got to hold down his spot. So what these are, though, is these are setups that are in these areas for reasons, and we can bow hunt out of them as well. So we don't have to make that transition from on to the next step from this time, going strictly back to feeding after the rifle season is done here. These areas are in a hex location. What that means is I've got bedding area to the west. I've got more of an earlier season lowland swamp bedding area to the east. I've got feed between as far as oaks, and a lot of bedding and mass producing acorns to the south. And then pretty much I've got open pine rows, red pine to the north. So I can pretty much guarantee that this is what it is, though, is I really have to watch my wind on these situations, because I've got bedding areas on both sides, but right now I feel that the bedding area that I have to the west on this setup has more browse and way more cover internal of those bedding areas. And it's funny that I say that. I had a gentleman last year. He debated that pretty strong, where he shouldn't promote any feed inside of a bedding area. And to me, that couldn't be further from the truth. When I create new partials, I don't do it a lot after, but when I create new partials, I will even go to the extreme when I design my bedding areas. We plant oats, that first deal, and what that is to get those deer back in those bedding areas and get them comfortable, especially if it's a late summer project that I'm putting together for someone. But with that said, you have to remember something that's very, very overlooked is a deer has to feed. A whitetail deer feeds 4 to 5 times within a 24-hour period. During the rut, you're taking advantage of does getting up on their feet, mature bucks having the opportunity to bump those does around. So we all know, the topic of being close to those bedding areas, so you're taking advantage of that all-day movement. Now, like I said, since it's transitioned, these does, 75 to 80% of those does were bred during the first rut, and now we're waiting 28 days to take advantage of that again. Here in Michigan, that will be back into the bow season, and it will be into our muzzleloader season. So something to keep in mind there, just another step. But the last thing that ties into that is the resting. It's kind of a resting zone, if you will, a resting phase is what I call it. I've got 2 or 3 public partial areas that we hunt, that when I leave the truck or I get back to the truck, there's 2 or 3 does in one area that will blow every time, and not every time that I go to the truck, because obviously they're not smelling me, but they are picking people off coming in and out of an area that's about 300 yards from me. And I was in there early season, and I know exactly why that's happening. But the fact of the matter is these does are in this. They need a rest, and they are so extremely on edge that they are blowing at leaves. They're blowing at sticks that have dropped down from the night before. They're blowing at each and everything that you can possibly imagine that these deer, they're just on edge. And rifles, there's so much pressure here in the state of Michigan during that first week. And each of these areas are different. Don't get me wrong. You might be in an area that doesn't have as much pressure as we have here, but here in Lake County, there's a lot of pressure, and a lot of last minute pressure, a lot of movement, a lot of people walking into areas, especially on public ground, that have never set foot in there before, stuff like that. So where I'm getting with this is there's a lot of pressure that comes from these areas that these does are just, they've had it, they're over it. The guys that are, those of us that are, I always say guys, I don't want to pinpoint, because it's always, I got a couple of young ladies out there that are doing a great job right now. So those of us that are taking advantage of that, or keeping that thought process in mind, back off. Don't hunt these spots unless it's perfect. Give them a break. And what I do is I start to transition my sits more towards evening than I do morning sits. And the reason is we're all burnt out. This is actually only my 8th sit, 9th sit of the year, which to some sounds ridiculous, but to me, I've even sat in one spot twice that I shouldn't have. So it's a game of inches. It's a game of minutes, and any of those that you can keep in your favor is best. So there's a lot of truth to that. So if you have an area that you feel that's been pressured because of yourself or someone else, try that. Just backing off, relying on your trail cameras, deer cast. And the reason I say that, there's many other things that you can use, but like I said in the past, that's all the information is on one spot there, and you can answer so many of your questions just by on one app. I feel that that's the strongest right now app out there. So yeah, kind of take those things, relax on some pressure, give those does a break. Those bucks are going to be hanging around waiting for those. That second rut is filled with the younger does, the immature does that are those immature does, those 6-month-old fawns, doe fawns from this year. So that's where you start seeing this earlier movement later in the year. And what that helps us do is we as hunters are able to refuel. And those younger does, everybody knows that when you're out in the evening sit, who are the first deer to the field? It's the younger does. So that second rut can be powerful. I love the post rut in the second rut. Fact is, you have to have the right clothing most of the time here, like in Michigan, to survive it. You wouldn't know it today, but usually we're knee deep in snow and going into the second portion here, and cold. This morning was low 20s, but it's 40 now. So yeah, take those things and kind of think about those. Review your rifle season sits and the rest of the post rut going into Thanksgiving. And I think we all this year have a lot to be thankful for. But I think there's still a few of us out there that are inches away from sealing the deal, and I'd be just that much more thankful if I could seal the deal. Who doesn't need one more thing to be thankful for, right? So yeah, take that into consideration and look out those spots. And we're gonna get tucked in here. We're in here early today, and it's 2 o'clock. We're gonna get in here, get sprayed down, get tucked in, and hopefully I can call side tonight with a big old buck from this blind. So thanks, guys.